Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Random Vlogging. Today, first things first, I do want to mention, I am still working on, the final part of the trilogy of warm-ups for Critting Your Role. That series is going to continue beyond the warm-ups and everything like that. It has just been a really bad time for me recently because I just finished my second to last term in college, had a big final on Monday or Sunday, I think it was, I can't remember, I'm going through some medication issues. So the episode is coming, I promise. I don't know when, whether it's going to be, Saturday or Sunday this week or not until next Friday when they normally come out. It will be coming. However, today I want to talk about something that annoys the hell out of me. And to be 100% honest, the people that actually need to hear this will never see this video because I am so small and I am so tiny on YouTube that they will never hear this. And they're the people that need to hear this the most because they're the ones that actually have the ability to make positive change, but they don't understand what it is that they're talking about. And they're coming from a very selfish, or not really selfish, self-motivated perspective. And there is a difference between being selfish and being self-motivated. Selfish is really just only caring about yourself. Being self-motivated means your motivation for doing something has its prime motivator in something that helps you specifically. Self-motivated is not always a bad thing. Self-motivations can lead to bigger change and things like that that are good for a lot of different people. And you can use self-motivation to have a more selfless viewpoint as well. The idea of, well, what works well for me might also work well for others. So perhaps this isn't the worst idea in the world. So, beating around the bush, I am going to read exactly what has been stated by Casey Neistat, and then I'm going to explain why, first of all, this is never going to happen, and second of all, it shows a complete lack of understanding of what the actual issue is here. And that is the biggest issue hurting YouTubers right now, is that they have absolutely no idea what's really going on. They are so focused on their own needs and their own small view of what YouTube is, of what the internet is, that they have completely missed the big picture. And this is not uncommon in new and emerging fields. This happens all the time. So anyway, this is what Casey Neistat wrote, and it's specifically in relation to the new algorithm that YouTube uses to demonetize or selectively monetize videos, because it's been flagging a lot of videos, not for full demonetization anymore like it was before, but being not advertiser friendly, so you get the lesser ads on there, or it may not always run ads in certain places. So the videos themselves do make less money, but it's not like they're making no money. So this is what he stated. This has been retweeted as of right now. This has been retweeted 47,353 times. And I have seen people like Boogie2988, Trade Chat, a lot of big YouTubers try and get behind this, and it just shows a complete lack of understanding. And this is something that I've seen happen from Casey often. Because of his background, because of how he became as successful as he is. and his lack of understanding of the business world in general. And I'll get to that in a second. So this is what he wrote. Title, a suggestion for YouTube. When the algorithm flags a video for bigger creators, open parentheses, those with more than 10K subs, question mark, 100K subs, question mark, close parentheses, comma, why not have the video immediately reviewed by a human before, capital, demonetizing, question mark. Bold. YouTube should assume the burden of the inaccuracies of their algorithm, not pass it on to their creators. For many big creators, their AdSense is their livelihood. It's how they pay their bills. Period. So the whole idea behind this is related to the ad apocalypse. I made a video about this. I want to say it's been over a year now because the ad apocalypse happened, if I remember correctly, the ad apocalypse happened about a year ago. And what the ad apocalypse was there was some inflammatory articles started by the Washington Post, if I remember correctly, that multiple people were able to show some inaccuracies in it. The Washington Post has actually been caught not fact-checking and doing things very well and just kind of putting things out there as quickly as possible. And they actually have an incentive to attack new media. New media is making their job significantly harder. They are, newspapers like the Washington Post or the New York Times, things like that. They are losing money to things like YouTube and stuff like that on a daily basis. They're just recently, I think, was it Teen Vogue? Just shut down production on one of their magazines simply because they couldn't afford it anymore because, again, the marketplace is changing. So anyway, they run this story that says that YouTube is allowing ads to run on like ISIS propaganda videos and videos of decapitation and hate speech videos and stuff like that, which wasn't true at the time, isn't true now. But this is what they ran, and the title that they chose to go with this, the angle that they chose to pursue, was specifically targeting the advertisers themselves and saying, Walmart supports ISIS, or, doing things like this where they would basically call up to get a quote for their article. They would call up the marketing departments of very big advertisers like Walmart, like AT&T, things like this that advertise on YouTube and go, hey, we just wanted to comment. Did you guys know that you guys are helping to support funding terrorism? And of course, their response was immediately going to be, well, of course not. No, we would never do something like that. What are you talking about? Well, here, let me show you. And they would show this proof. And it caused some really, really big advertisers to pull their ads from YouTube temporarily. And a lot of people didn't realize that's how it worked. But it was always intended to be temporarily. This is what is called the ad apocalypse. Because there are all these really big names pulling their ads off of YouTube, a lot of creators, not all of them, there were actually certain creators that actually saw no drop or even increased profits during the ad apocalypse. But a large enough portion of very, very big YouTubers saw their ad revenue cuts. Sometimes I heard as low as things like 25% of what they used to be making. And so it became this big, 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 big thing. And YouTube came up with a bunch of different ways to deal with it. And their first way was they created this algorithm to automatically flag videos that were offensive and just not allow ads to run on those videos. Now, it came to prominence after the adpocalypse happened. The algorithm itself had existed for years. I had actually had a few of my videos demonetized. I was never actually told about it. I found it when I was going through my video section. I was looking through my analytics, and I found that there are certain videos that were just simply not generating any ad revenue. And I looked, and there was a little red dollar sign that said, you know, you can't run ads on this video. So it'd been the algorithm is not new. However, because it came to prominence at that point, everybody started talking about the algorithm and, oh, it's the algorithm. So, blah, 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 blah. Well, YouTube heard, and they started modifying the algorithm, and they came up with a new system. And the new system now is they're still using an algorithm. It's still automatic robot that looks for certain words used in there, looks for certain words in the title and the description, things like that. And if it finds these words, it will say this is not advertiser friendly, and it won't demonetize it. It will put it into a lesser category where it doesn't get as many views because it won't show up in searches and stuff like that, because YouTube doesn't want that kind of stuff showing up in searches. The views that it does get have lower paying revenue sources for them. So even the people that are seeing it and watching it, they're making their creators, they're making the creators less money per view, or technically per 1,000 view is how they measure it. And then other things, as long as this thing. And there's a manual review process. What you do is you click on this button that says request a review, and then as soon as they have enough manpower, they get someone to actually look at the video, make a judgment call on whether or not it really is not friendly for advertisers, and then they either remove it and remonetize it like normal, or they keep it on there and go, no, we were right. The issue being that this process itself generally takes a couple of days, and for the majority of big YouTubers, most of their views will be in the first couple of days. So this has become a really, really big deal. And Casey has come up with the perfect solution for it, because Casey is a genius. Casey, the amazing vlogger who no longer vlogs. Casey, who created an app that was basically worthless, to be perfectly honest. He failed completely on it. But the brand recognition was strong enough that I believe CNN bought it and him to create a new news network for them, and all this other stuff and stuff. And so we see him completely missing the point of this algorithm and exactly what it's supposed to do. The point of this algorithm has nothing to do with creators. It doesn't. It 100% has nothing to do with creators. It never has. It never will. That's not the point of the algorithm. That is not the point of ads. The ads were never meant to benefit creators. They never have been. They never will be. The ads have always been about making Google money. End of story. A lot of people are like, well, they don't care about their creators. They really don't. They never have. They're a business. Their creators are not their customers. As crazy as this sounds, from someone who is studying business right now, I am 4 courses away from having a bachelor's degree, and I have aced every single business course I have taken, to the point where I have scored higher than some of my professors on a lot of business courses that I have taken. I know what I am talking about. The market for YouTube, their customer base, are the people that are selling them ads. That is where they're getting their money from. Their customers are not YouTubers. Their customers are not the people watching YouTube. Those people are customers of the ad companies. That's how that works. Marketing 101 is, you have a product, you need to start off by getting that product in front of people that can use that product. This is called product recognition. That is the entire purpose of a massive amount of a marketing budget, is what is called product recognition and market share. And all the ads are designed to do is to get people to think about this. It's not to get them to buy it. It's not to get them to like it. It's to simply get them to remember it. So the YouTube viewers are not YouTube's customers. The YouTube creators are not YouTube's customers. YouTube's customers, the people that they want to keep happy, the people that they are targeting with all of their goods and services, because that's what a business does, is they create goods or services and they target a specific market, they target customers, and then offer those goods and services to those customers. For YouTube, their customers are the people that are selling them, that are buying ad space on YouTube. That is their customer base. That is who they care about. Now, having YouTubers that generate large followings is useful to them because it allows them to target their customer base a little bit better. It makes it so they can charge more for ads and things like that. But don't ever assume that YouTube actually cares about its creators. Its creators are simply capital. They're simply a resource. And that particular resource is in massive, massive supply. And the actual demand for it is diminishing. So the price of that resource, the quality of that resource, according to basic economics, is dropping. When you have high supply, low demand, the price of an item goes down. That resource is just not very valuable right now. There are 400 million hours of content being updated, I think, every day is what they say. I may be wrong. It may be a shorter amount. There may be 400 million hours being uploaded every hour. I don't know. 400 million hours of content. That is a massive amount of supply. And what a lot of people don't realize is YouTube has probably the greatest pot of gold for marketing people that exists currently. YouTube knows how old you are. YouTube knows your personal preferences. YouTube knows the things that you enjoy. YouTube knows the things that you search for. YouTube knows the things that you do. It collects all of this information so it can sell that information to its customers, the advertisers. That is the whole purpose of YouTube. As crazy as this sounds, this is how it works. This is how business works. So the idea that, well, it's not fair that I'm not making, they don't actually care if the creators make any money off of this. It was a nice byproduct because, again, having creators that could make money off of this, that could create higher quality content, could help them to increase their ability to sell ad space to the advertisers. So it was basically like getting higher quality product. It would kind of be like a butcher being able to purchase grade A beef instead of chuck for their ground beef. They both work equally well. However, if you're using grade A, grade A certified beef instead of just, whatever cow meat you can find for your ground beef, it's going to be a little bit better. It's going to be a little bit higher quality. You can sell it a little bit higher quality. Both of them work. And right now, again, there's such a massive supply that it really doesn't matter the quality. It really doesn't. Quality has become such a simple thing to replicate with amazing programs that used to cost thousands of dollars that you can now get for $20 a month. With technology that used to cost, tens of thousands of dollars, that you can now get for $30 a month as part of your phone plan. Its quality is not that difficult. And so they have a ton of quality content out there. The algorithm was never meant to help creators. It doesn't care about creators, and neither does YouTube, and they're not supposed to. They never have, they never will. That's not the point of this. And I want to kind of give you guys an example that anyone who has ever applied for a minimum wage job or entry-level job in the past, I want to say probably close to at least 10 years. It may be closer to 15 to 20 now. You have probably had to take a version of either the Myers-Briggs. I'm going to actually look up what it's actually called. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Test, or the Big Five Personality Traits Test. These are the two most common personality psychology tests used by big businesses currently. The reason that you take these tests is, 30 years ago-ish. A couple really, really big companies like Walmart and a couple other ones spent like $50 or $60 million investing in this new emerging type of psychology, which wasn't technically 100% new. The Myers-Briggs type indicator is actually based on some theories put forth by Carl Jung, who was born in the late 19th century and did a lot of his work early 20th century. So the stuff was not, the psychology itself was not particularly new. However, they came up with this really interesting idea of, wait a minute, with these personality types, we could use these to help us to kind of weed out our applications. If you've ever worked in staffing for a retail store or anything like that, if you've ever had to deal with staffing before, you get significantly more applications than you will ever be able to fill. Even in a really, really bad or a really, really good economic boom where you have a lot of money, you will always have more people applying for jobs than you have jobs to give. That's just how it works. In these particular fields, there are other fields where that relationship changes, where they will actually have very few qualified candidates for a large number of positions, and so the candidates themselves have much more negotiation power, blah, 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 blah. Again, basic economics. So anyway, the reason that they spent all this money is they figured this would be a really, really great way for them to narrow down their application pool. The Myers-Briggs type indicator is probably the most well-known because it gives a very, very simple, kind of easy to remember answer after you take it. And that is, you get a 4-letter description of your personality type. And there's a lot of psychology behind this that I'm not going to go into. But there's a grand total of 8 letters that could be in there. And they each one they're set up in pairs that are mutually exclusive. They are ESTJ and NF. ESTJ is one set, and INFP is the other one. So E and I are mutually exclusive. E stands for extroversion. I stands for introversion. S and N are mutually exclusive. S stands for sensing, N stands for intuition. They couldn't use I for that because they'd already used I. T and F are mutually exclusive. T stands for thinking, F stands for feeling. And J and P are mutually exclusive. J stands for judgment. P stands for perception. So what happens is after you take this Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, you will be giving a 4-letter diagnosis. You might be an ENTJ or maybe an ISFP or something like that. But it's a very simple kind of diagnosis that tries to simplify a very, very complex form of psychology into a 4-letter acronym. Due to the fact that the Myers-Briggs type indicator is rife with inaccuracies and things like that, and the fact that if the same person takes it at 2 different times in their life, or just 2 different times of the day, they will actually get different results and things like that. It's not used a ton. The Big 5 personality traits is used a lot more in the business world. And the reason behind that is they spent $50 million or $60 million or something like that. They spent a crap ton of money finding a way to adapt this for business use. Now, my first intro to business management course I took, first one I took, I thought this is going to be great. I had a history in business management. I was a very successful manager. I thought this is going to be great. I'm going to be able to learn, all the stuff that, these people with bachelor's degree had, that they came in and completely ruined my store. Because one of the things I found is if somebody came directly out of college and then got into a position where they were like an assistant manager or a manager of a store, they'd tank the store. Happened every single time. And so I'd finally get to figure out why. And so when this first happened, I took really aggressive notes. Like I would retype every single vocabulary word by hand so I could remember absolutely everything. And it would take me, 3 or 4 hours to get through a single chapter. So this particular chapter was on personality types, and they talked about the Big 5 personality types. They talked about the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, and a couple other ones. And so I spent 3 hours just going through this, and they talk about the possible business applications for it, and this and this and this. And it's more often than not used in staffing and in weeding out potential employers or employees and blah, 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 blah. And then in the final paragraph of this massive chapter, they say, oh, by the way, it's about as accurate at predicting a good employee as a coin toss. So why is it in every single entry-level application that you currently file right now? Like, you cannot apply for a job right now without taking a personality test. Doesn't happen, at least not entry-level. Once you get high enough where you're giving them resumes and cover letters and things like that, where it's actual skilled labor, they may or may not use this. You may still have to take a personality test after you get the job or as a requirement of getting the job. But it doesn't happen as often at higher levels. But if you're in an entry-level position, you have to take one. And again, it is used to get rid of certain candidates because they show certain tendencies that the company doesn't want. And again, it is as accurate as a coin toss in finding good employees. It is a complete waste of time. It is pure luck if it actually predicts a good employee. So why are they still using it 20 years later, 30 years later? Why are they still using this thing that they've been shown to be inaccurate? There are studies upon studies that show the inaccuracy of all of these different things. They talk about they have very low correlation levels. They talk about the methodology behind them is very flawed. Like, it just goes on and on and on and on and on about this. So why do they keep doing this? Well, because they spent $50 million on it. And because they invested in it, they have to use it. Until they can recoup that loss, they are going to continue using it despite the fact that it's completely pointless. It is a very simple and easy way for them to be able to reject people. It is a very simple and easy way for them to be able to find a way to blame their profit losses on something else. That is the entire purpose of personality tests. I know this because I worked in staffing. And I'm not going to say which specific business it was where this is how it worked, but I do know it works in multiple businesses the exact same way. After you take that personality test, you will be color-coded. You could be either green, yellow, or red. Green means I can hire you. If I bring you in for an interview, I like what you say, I think you'll be a good fit for the team, I can offer you the job right there. Yellow means I have to call the HR department, and they're going to say no. Theoretically, they could say yes, and if I felt strongly enough about something that I was willing to get into an argument with HR, which was a pain in the ass, it didn't matter what the company was, dealing with HR is a pain in the ass, because they're generally incredibly overworked, underpaid, and the rules and laws and everything are changing so quickly that they are constantly having to learn new things, and they have to deal with employee complaints that are completely on base on anything, and it's not a fun job for anyone. So generally, yellow means no, despite the fact that it's supposed to mean maybe. It means no. And then red means no, you're not getting hired. It doesn't matter if you are going to be the greatest employee in the world. Because you answered certain questions in a certain way, you are not going to get the job. Now, a lot of people might think that this is looking for things like, it indicated that they are a danger for maybe shoplifting, or maybe it indicated that they had violent tendencies. No, actually, none of those things are measured by these personality tests. None of them are. They're basically how you process your decision making, and the basic idea, like with the Myers-Briggs, in the actual use of it, and I'm trying to find where's my letters. I need letters. There they go. The actual letters themselves. Remember, I mentioned they're mutually exclusive. Extroversion versus introversion. If you show too many introversion traits, if you are too introverted, you will be marked red. Sensing versus intuition. If you have too many intuitive traits instead of sensing, you will be marked red. Thinking versus feeling. If you have too many feeling-based traits, you will be marked red. Judgment versus perception. If you have too many perception-based traits, you will be marked red. That's not what these were originally intended to be, but when you look at the tests themselves, and they actually would have explanations for managers, all of the bottom ones, introversion, intuition, feeling, perception, have negative connotation words connected to them. And extroversion, sensing, thinking, and judgment all have positive connotation words connected to them, despite the fact that there are certain jobs where an extroverted person will be horrible, and I would really prefer an introverted person. There's certain jobs where I would much prefer someone who is very intuitive instead of someone who is very sensing, where intuition, they rely on their gut. Sensing is more where they rely on external sources and things like that. In sales specifically, extroversion is really, really useful in sales. But so is intuition. Intuition is just as important as extroversion. However, according to how they label things in these tests, intuition bad, extroversion good. If I have someone who all they're going to be doing is stocking shelves and doing planograms and things like that, which is the map that tells you where to put everything in a store, I don't want an extrovert doing that. They're not going to get it done quickly. They're going to want to interact with customers. They're going to want to interact with their friends, things like that. They're an extroverted person. That's how they interact with the world. I'm going to want an introverted person, someone that is much better working alone, someone that's much better at kind of focusing on just one thing at a time and not really interacting with other people, introversion is better for that particular job. However, again, they wanted something clean, they wanted something simple, so introversion is bad. It gets you a red mark. So the reason I'm talking about all this is that is what the algorithm is. It is not meant to help YouTubers or creators or influencers or whatever you want to call them. That's kind of like saying these personality tests are meant to help the printers that I used to sell. Doesn't really matter. Printers are printers. We got tons of them. They're going to keep coming out. Some of them are going to be really high quality, and that's going to fit a certain market. Some of them are going to be very low quality, and there is a market for very low quality, cheap, and expensive printers. Just like everything else, there's a market for just about everything, and there is a market for very high quality content. Like the things that Casey Neistat makes are incredibly high quality. Some of them are very, very high concept. They're very professionally done. There's a market for that. There is also a market for stuff that I do where I'm on a crappy 720p webcam that I got years ago because I couldn't afford the good 1080p one. And I just talk into a camera for half an hour or something like that. There's a market for that too, because people are going to watch my content. And there are going to be advertisers that want to target people that watch content like this, because the people that watch content like this are not particularly interested in a super really good looking product, because if they were, they would be watching someone else. No, they're here to either support me personally, it might be my personality, it might be my thought processes, anything like that, or they're here to learn something, and that has a market. And that is what the algorithm is meant to do. That is all that it is meant to do. It is a way for them to better help their customers, the people buying advertising space from them, to target more specific markets better. That is the entire purpose of the algorithm. Now, is it possible that the algorithm could have other effects as well that are positive to other things, like if they improve the algorithm so that Casey Neistat does not have as many videos being demonetized, that that might help them as well? Yes, but that's not the purpose of it. That would be a perk. That would be an unintended side effect. It is not the purpose of the algorithm. And that is what Casey Neistat and Trade Chat and Boogie2988 and every other one of these 47,353 retweets fail to realize. Creators are not the customers of YouTube. Ad companies are. Creators are not even the product that they're selling. Creators are simply the supply, and they've got so much of it. And they're now starting to get much, much higher quality supply than any independent creator can do, because old media is transitioning into new media. That's why you have The Tonight Show and Jimmy Kimmel and all these other things coming onto YouTube. They are the grade A high quality beef. And so again, supply is very, very high. Demand is very, very low. The entire purpose of the algorithm is to make it so they don't have to pay people to manually look at videos. It's the entire purpose. The purpose of the algorithm is to take people out of the equation, because people cost money and the algorithm is supposed to save them money. And it's to help their customers, the people selling the ads, to better be able to target their ads. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again over and over and over again. The ad apocalypse is temporary. YouTube is a marketing gold mine. Do you know how much companies pay for the type of information YouTube just happens to have? Because people give it to them freely. There are companies called market research companies. Their entire purpose is they call people up and they figure out what they like. They figure out demographics, and they figure out where the best place to sell certain items is. And then they take that information and they sell it to companies, and they make boatloads of cash. It is an entire market. There is this entire market for what's called market research. Bigger companies will have subsections of their company where all they do is market research. And even big companies like that will still purchase market research from one of these companies that's all they do every so often, simply because the information is available, it is there, and it is something that they can afford, and it is very, very useful. YouTube has all that information. We have given it to them freely. It is a gold mine for marketing. Not only that, YouTube has the ability to put certain ads in certain places. Like on television, there is a very, very wide demographic that watches football games. Okay? You have like hardcore football fans that are male and are between the ages of 18 and 34, which is a very sought-after target demographic. And then there are people that are just kind of social people that go to football parties to hang out with their friends, and they're not really watching TV. And then you have people that simply turn on the game to have something, going on in the background. And then you have, people that don't fit into any of these demographics. All these different people are watching the exact same game. And so targeting a very specific market is very difficult on broadcast television compared to YouTube, where we know exactly what people want. We have channels that are devoted to one thing only. A lot of YouTubers make multiple channels. So they'll have a vlogging channel, and they will have a gameplay channel, and then they will have their high quality concept channel. And, they may have, a bunch of different channels specifically because they find that they get better views when they deliver exactly what their audience wants. This is marketing gold. The advertisers cannot afford to not use this. It's simply not a good idea. People are cutting their cable. People are not watching television live. The internet is a really, really, really big thing. The adpocalypse is temporary. It always has been. It was always going to be temporary. It was simply the Washington Post posted a story, and their PR department had to make a reaction about it, and that's what they did. All the companies that pulled their ads off of YouTube are feeling the pain of doing that right now. Despite the fact that they will claim, no, we did that for more reason. No, they have lost sales because of it, because YouTube is a marketing gold mine. Yeah. It's how it works. So the more people like Casey Neistat sit there going, hey, listen, if you don't treat your creators right, we're going to go somewhere else, or we're going to blah, blah, blah. And, you have to take care of, because these are your customers. They're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Creators are not the customers of YouTube. They never have been. They never will be. The customers of YouTube are advertisers. It's how it works. This is business 101, folks. And with the massive amount of supply of creators out there, they don't need to treat you that nicely. They don't need full-time content creators anymore. You don't have to do this full-time to come up with really high-quality stuff anymore. You don't. Look at some of the part-time, look at someone like Sid Alpha. who puts out incredible, what I would classify it almost as investigative journalism. He puts out incredible pieces where he does research into scummy developers on Steam and stuff like that, and brings to light really bad practices and things like that. He does this part time. He has he has another job. YouTube is not his full time career, and yet he puts out very well done, very high quality, very well edited, good sounding, professional looking stuff. And he doesn't do it full time. And he doesn't need to do it full time in order to get that kind of quality. And to be blunt, most of the stuff out there, most of the people that do this full time, the only thing that would happen if they stopped doing it full time is the amount of stuff they were making would drop, not the quality of their content, because they've already learned how to make quality. That's just how it works. So no, YouTube is not going to assume the burden of the inaccuracies of their algorithm instead of passing it on to their creators. No, that's not the purpose of the algorithm. The algorithm is not supposed to help creators. The algorithm is not their fault. The algorithm is specifically something they're using to help their customer base, the people buying ad space from them. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been. That's all it's going to be. And it will only be as accurate as it needs to be to make the advertisers happy. End of story. Anyone that believes otherwise does not understand how business works. 100%, they do not understand how business works. And by sitting here and focusing on this idea of, no, creators, we're the people that made YouTube. No, you aren't. YouTube made YouTube. YouTube did an incredible job of creating a platform that anyone could use that had a very low barrier to entry, and just kind of opened the floodgates and allowed people to use it and made a shit ton of money off of it. And that's how you make a lot of money, is you create an entirely new market. You create the lowest barrier to entry physically possible, and then you control that market as much as you can. Make sure that you are making money off of that market in some way, shape, or form. And you make billions. That's why Microsoft is a billion-dollar company, because they have the PC market cornered. Yes, Macs have jumped up recently. I think they're now like a 25% share of the computer market are now Macs instead of PCs. 25%. Whoop-de-doo. And Linux is gaining. I think they've made it to 7% now. Wow. We're still talking about well over 60% of the market. A large majority of the market is PCs. And Microsoft doesn't actually have to do a ton. They have other things they do. They have the Xbox, and they're in the console market, and they create their own programs and stuff like that with Microsoft Word and Excel and stuff like that. But the mere fact that people have to pay them for their code so that they can write on Windows and stuff like that, they created a market, they control enough of it, and they've created a barrier to entry low enough that just about anyone can get on there and do stuff. Valve's seeing the same thing on Steam. This is how it works, folks. It's what YouTube is. It has never been about the creators. The creators themselves have made it about the creators, and that is a fantastic thing. That's the reason I wanted to become a YouTuber, because I thought that the community the creators themselves had formed was amazing. This was these people that valued creativity, people that wanted to improve themselves, that wanted to get their voices heard, that wanted to connect with other people. That's why I became a YouTuber. And that, I think, still exists to a point. But now that we have people like PewDiePie and Casey that make, millions of dollars a year off of their stuff. It's that community is no longer there. It really isn't. It exists in small little pockets and stuff like that. And there's still amazing, wonderful creators. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form attempting to say that Casey Neistat is a bad person, is a bad creator, is anything like that. I'm saying that he does not understand this particular situation because he does not have a background in business. Again, he created a company that failed, but his brand was strong enough that it got purchased. The company itself was worthless, but Casey was worth something. That alone shows that his business acumen, not the greatest in the world. I will never, ever consider Casey a businessman. I will always consider Casey a creator, and a phenomenal one at that. But me, myself, I'm training, I'm learning to become a businessman. I have been a businessman. I understand business. I understand business law. I understand business practices. I understand economics and marketing and psychology and the psychology behind customer choice and things like that, and the psychology behind market shares and things like that. Like there's so much to running a business. I can guarantee if I walked up to Casey Neistat or Boogie 298 and I asked them, how much money do you have to set aside for your payroll tax per employee that you have, or what are the 4 exceptions to overtime law that exist and what are required to prove that so that you don't have to pay certain employees overtime, or what is the Fair Labor Standards Act and how does it apply to your specific business, they would sit there and go, because it simply doesn't affect them. Never has, because they've never had to run a business with hundreds of thousands of employees and things like that. They've probably never had to deal with the Fair Labor Standards Act. They've probably been able, sometimes illegally, sometimes completely legally, but certainly never intentionally, never intentionally illegally. They probably just didn't know any better. But they probably have always paid most, if not all, of their workers as independent contractors. Which is a very, very common business practice. It's one of the easiest ways to violate labor laws, and it constitutes a massive portion of what the Department of Workforce Development in every state has to investigate on a fairly regular basis. It is the easiest way for you to lose your company is to declare someone an independent contractor instead of an employee. Wizards of the Coast just had to deal with a major lawsuit, class action lawsuit from its Magic judges, because they declared them independent contractors incorrectly and illegally. And none of this is done on purpose. This is just people that don't understand how business law works. This is people that don't understand how businesses work. And that is what Casey is. Casey is a phenomenal creator. Casey, from my understanding, I've never met the gentleman before. Casey is an incredibly intelligent, intuitive person. And he has this idea of how things should work. He does not, however, have an understanding of how things do work. And the break between how things should work and how things do work is always the problem. That's why these business majors, people that had bachelor's or master's degrees in business that came into retail stores would tank stores, because they understood how things should work, but they didn't understand how they did work. They'd never worked with real people. They never understood that theory and practice are 2 very, very different things. They had learned theory for 4 to 6 years, and they had never had any practical experience. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing all these people that have no practical experience, but are very intuitive, very intelligent, that are going, I have a solution to this. This is the solution. And it fails not because it's not a good idea. It'd be a fantastic idea for YouTube to be able to assume the burden of inaccuracies in their algorithm. It'd be a fantastic idea for creators. There is absolutely no economic reason why YouTube should ever do that. There is no motivation whatsoever for them to do that. There isn't. Why in the world would they do that when the creators are not their customers? They're not the people they care about. They care about the customers, the ad companies. YouTube makes its money by selling ads. That's how they do it. That's how they've always done it. That's how it works. Anyway, I've been talking for almost an hour about this. If you made it to the end, thank you very much. This is just something that annoys me because, again, I've seen it tank stores over and over and over again. And as much as what Casey says sounds like common sense, it's not, because he misunderstands some very basic fundamental principles about how YouTube works. And it seems strange, and it's very easy for someone to go, you get 190 subscribers, he's got, millions. How in the hell do you know YouTube better than he does? And the simple answer to that is, I don't know how to be successful, or theoretically, I don't have the practice that he does, the practical knowledge that he does of how to be successful as a creator on YouTube. I don't. He has significantly more practical knowledge about how to be successful as a creator on YouTube. However, I know business. That's what I do. I can see YouTube for what it is. It is a business, and I understand its motivations. I understand what it's doing because it's doing exactly what any business would do. It is very, very rare for a business to do something truly shocking to those of us that study business. The practices have been the same for so long that nothing is really shocking to us. The people that get surprised are the ones that don't understand how business works. Those are the people that were shocked about the adpocalypse. Those are the people that are still, retweeting this stuff by Casey and all this other stuff, is people that simply don't understand how business works. Those of us that do understand how business works just sit there and go, well, yes, this is a very common thing. It happens in emerging markets all the time. Emerging market will blow up. Eventually, a problem in the market will surface. The market itself will start to collapse, and then we get to see the actual longevity of the market. The video game industry saw a huge collapse in the 80s. It came back from that after enacting a few policies. You had the dot-com bubble that burst and never came back. And now we have new media getting to its point where bad things have happened. The weaknesses of the market have shown themselves, and now we get to see how it reacts to that and whether it's going to be continue to be an emerging market. And if you look at it from an economic standpoint, if you look at it from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, the only place it can go is up. It's far too valuable in its current state for it to disappear entirely. Now, if regulations get thrown on it, if it gets overregulated, if it gets underregulated, if certain people start making really poor business decisions, you can watch new media die out just like the dot-com bubble. You can watch it die out just like what happened to video games in the mid-'80s and stuff like that. You will see that happen here. But as of right now, you have some incredibly intelligent, business-minded people at the helm here. They're going to make decisions on what's best for their company and what's best for the market itself. And it's going to continue until it's no longer profitable. And right now, it is the most profitable thing that exists. It really, really is. From a marketing perspective, this is pure gold. The ad apocalypse is not going to continue. It's going to change. Obviously, it's going to change how YouTube works a little bit. And that's how it should be. YouTube has been changing drastically. I mean, if you look at what used to be viral videos to what are now viral videos, it's so massively different. It's astounding. So, yeah, YouTube is changing. It's always going to be changing. Does that mean the people that are making millions of dollars right now are no longer going to be making millions of dollars? No, they're going to be fine. Does that mean that new and up-and-coming creators are not going to be able to get onto the platform anymore because the barrier to entry is going to raise to such a point that only those with significant amount of capital can even think about it? No, that's not going to happen either. The barrier to entry has already risen, but it's never going to get so high that it turns into what old media or traditional media is right now, where the barrier to entry is massively high, and independent creators have very little chance of being able to break in. So, yes, that's my little rant. And by little, I mean hour-long lecture on economics and how business works. Yeah, if you like this, hit a like. I will be very interested to see if YouTube monetizes this or not. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, that's all for me today. See you guys next time. Bye bye.